What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Shield Splitter Podcast. Today I wanted to briefly discuss Terraria Otherworld. There hasn't been any updates lately, as far as I'm aware, and I'm also pretty sure there's no release date yet. And it also seems as if Relogic has gone back to the drawing board with some things that might seem fundamental. We can't know or be certain of anything just yet, but I wanted to take a look at what we do know, and maybe it might give some hints on what it is that they plan to do. One of the more significant things that I noticed was the change in art style from Terraria to Terraria Otherworld. One part Starbound, one part Donkey Kong Country. To say the least, I'm not really a fan of the art style, but I'm not really a graphics groupie, and I'm all about gameplay. Gameplay is number one for me. Now, I wasn't necessarily a fan of the original Terraria's art style either, but the game's come a long way since its 2011 release date. That being the case, Terraria's art style really not appealing to me isn't something I'm too worried about right now. Now that that's settled, let's take a look at some gameplay. So one of the things that caught my eye right away was this new grappling hook gameplay feature. It kind of took me back to older games like Pitfall and Bionic Commando. You know, the kind of gameplay where precision jumping is key. Half of the difficulty is actually making it through the level and not falling into hazards. Stage traps and pitfalls being something that you want to avoid. I feel like that small feature gave me a heads up of the direction that the company was going in. More of a skill-based platformer, less of an open world sandbox. I'm thinking more Super Mario Brothers, less Minecraft. Maybe more Donkey Kong Country and less Lego Adventure playset. It's tough to say considering the fact that nothing might stay the same after the revamp. Pipeworks Studios being brought on board to help with development, I believe, gives me a slight connection to the Prince of Persia games, which are kind of platformers, kind of combat based, but it seems as if they do a lot of things, so I mean, that's really nothing that I can use. So this is pure speculation, but what I'm thinking is that Terraria Otherworld might be a combination of both Bionic Commando and Castlevania Order of Ecclesia. No proof to support any of this, but that's what I'm going with. Now, I will provide unsubstantial reasons why I think that much later on in the podcast, but I did want to cover something else. Terraria 1.3.6. Now, this update by Relogic for the original Terraria game will contain the usual gameplay tweaks and bug fixes, but some of the more notable things that I wanted to talk about are the additions. So we'll supposedly be getting a new female NPC, an improved smart cursor for multiplayer, water candles and peace candles that can be toggled on and off with wires, statues that can be flipped to face either left or right, the ability for mannequins to use dyes and accessories for armor, both spider and corruption themed furniture, new leaf falling effects from trees, new randomly generated backgrounds and splash screens, and a few other small surprises. Now, there's no official release date just yet for the 1.3.6 update, but I'm certain Terraria fans are just as excited as I am as we patiently wait for this awesome addition to our beloved game. This is the Shield Splitter Podcast. We'll have more on Terraria Otherworld right after this short break.
Listen up, please! Listen up, please!
Hey, listen!
Welcome back to the Shield Splitter Podcast. So to continue our discussion about Terraria Otherworld, I want to present a few unsubstantial reasons why I feel as though Relogic is going more for a Bionic Commando / Castlevania Order of Ecclesia rather than the open sandbox / Lego set that we're used to / Minecraft clone, and it comes in the form of a quest / checklist box. Now this isn't anything new or something that we've never seen in other games, but it's definitely new to Terraria. Now this checklist box / quest marker checklist seems to also function as a tutorial. Now this is something we've already seen in games like Skyrim, Starbound, Fable if I recall correctly. Typically a way to teach the player the fundamental functions of the game. For Terraria Otherworld, it looks to give players instructions on how to build a player home, how to talk to NPCs, and possibly what they should do next after completing other tasks. This isn't really something that existed in a previous game, so I suspect Terraria Otherworld will be more task-specific gameplay and probably less of a sandboxy type game. Now the next clue that gives me the impression that Relogic is going more for a Castlevania / Bionic Commando type game is that it seems as if there's going to be more tower defense than in the previous game. Now the tower defense features in Terraria made you play the game a little bit differently. Winning seemed to be more about crowd control and planning your next move rather than just wearing the strongest armor and equipping the strongest weapon. You couldn't really hide behind walls from powerful enemies. You couldn't really exploit enemies by kiting them around in circles. Just a lot of old strategies didn't really work with the tower defense, which made gameplay a little bit more interesting. Now with all of the tower defense features came more interesting weaponry and more interesting armor abilities. Sentry armors would allow you to summon more turret-based minions. Weapon types became much more elaborate. The game pretty much just got super fancy on us overnight. Now the last thing is how the overworld and corruption struggling against one another seems to work. It looks as if the overworld is protected by some sort of barrier, and if at any time that barrier were to fail, everything would turn into corruption. Now taking into consideration that I believe a lot more battles will be tower based, I wouldn't be surprised even a little bit if the player had to protect some form of generator. Meaning that there's some battles that you can't run away from without dire consequences. Now if there's some battles that you're going to absolutely be forced to fight or else, I can see how it would make sense to have a more elaborate, skill-based combat system. And with that fancy grappling hook features that's been showcased so much, it wouldn't really make sense for wings and hoverboards to remain in the game. And if they did, they'd probably be heavily nerfed. So yeah, that's pretty much how I came to my conclusion about what kind of game Terraria Otherworld might be. If the game's pretty much going to teach you how to play it from the ground up, I don't really see a reason not to go in a more skill-based direction. But I mean, to be completely honest, there's simply just not enough information. I have absolutely no clue what Relogic plans to do, and even if I was close, all of that stuff can change. I thought it'd just be fun and interesting to talk about it. You know, do a little speculating here and there. Anyhow, I'm looking forward to the 1.3.6 updates just as much as you other Terraria fans out there. I'll try to keep you up to date with any new information that comes. If you have any questions or concerns, leave them in the comments below. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you like this info. This has been the Shield Splitter Podcast, and I'll see you all next time. Later.